And so the next topic that I want to talk about is like, ooh, can you feel the excitement in the air? I mean, today being March 17th, 2021, that means that tomorrow is March 18th, 2021. And if you're not in the know, this is what that means, that tomorrow is finally the day that the Snyder Cut, the Zack Snyder Cut of Justice League, is finally going to be available for viewing. This is something that fans of this franchise have been waiting for a long time. Now, admittedly, I'm not the biggest DC Films fan in the world. I'm not the biggest DC Comics fan in the world. I'm more of a Marvel guy myself. I mean, for the most part, my interest in DC Comics pretty much begins and ends with Batman. Although Superman has been able to attract, a short-term interest, here and there. But aside from that, I'm not overwhelmingly enthusiastic about DC Comics. I won't go into all the details about that right now. It would make the segment too long. But what I will talk about is exactly why I'm so interested in the Zack Snyder Cut. And that was just basically simply because it is finally a case of the fans being able to get what they want. And you would be surprised that there were people out there who actually begrudged the fans the opportunity to be able to see this film that they wanted to see. There were a lot of people in the media that were begrudging fans the opportunity to be able to see this movie that they wanted to see. And for the life of me, I can't figure it out. They spent months insisting that this Zack Snyder Cut didn't exist. And that turned out to be untrue. Zack Snyder came out himself and said, well, there is a Zack Snyder Cut of this film. Although, he did at the time admit that the Snyder Cut was incomplete. But that was enough to keep the fans demanding to see it. And so eventually, Warner Brothers, they caved into the, well, perhaps caved in is the wrong phrase. They acquiesced to the wishes of the fans, and they said that not only are we going to release the Snyder Cut, but we're actually going to go and talk to these actors and see if we can get them to come back and do some reshoots. And we're going to film some additional footage. And of course, they all said yes, because I don't think that anybody was satisfied with the cut of Justice League that eventually wound up in theaters. Joss Whedon has done some fantastic work as a filmmaker. He's a pretty god-awful person, but he's done some pretty good work as a filmmaker, but in all honesty, Justice League was not one of them. So Warner Brothers, they gave Zack Snyder a pretty big budget to put this thing together, and he just took that as a license to have a whole lot of fun with it. And now apparently what we have wound up in the end is a 4-hour cut of Zack Snyder's Justice League. I know a lot of people out there are complaining that that's too long, but if this story is everything that we are told that it's going to be, I'm very excited to see it. I'm on pins and needles right now. I cannot wait to have a chance to see this film. But I do also want to take a moment to also impart a message to all the media people who were so opposed to this. And at the same time, I'm pretty much going to torch any ability that there's ever going to be to monetize this particular segment on YouTube, because that message is as simple as this. Get fucked. Don't just get fucked. Fuck yourself. As a matter of fact, let's take 2 steps back so that you can go fuck yourself in the face. I would like you to take 3 steps back, bend over backwards, wrap yourself around twice, and fuck yourself in the face. I would have to think that at a certain point some of these media people would be smart enough to understand that everything in this industry does revolve around the fans. Whether you like it or not, it doesn't revolve around you. It revolves around the fans. And as a matter of fact, every aspect of the entertainment industry doesn't exist unless there are people who are willing to spend money on it. And yes, you know what? Hey, media big brain, that does include you, you fucking idiot. So when you're going to set yourself as an adversary of the fans, seemingly for no reason other than your own vanity, you need to take a serious, hard look at yourself in the mirror and just ask yourself, where is the best place in this face for me to fuck myself? The lucky orifice can be one of your choosing. I'm not really emotionally invested in that. The only thing that I care about is that you do it. Because as far as I'm concerned, if your number one concern in relation to something like this is that you just want to make sure that somebody else doesn't get something that they wanted, then it's not the fans that are toxic. You're toxic. And really, the biggest thing about it that I really can't understand is how any group of people could lack that much self-knowledge. You know, to sit there and say that, the Justice League fans, they're all toxic because they just wouldn't take no for an answer. And they kept campaigning for this thing. And they kept campaigning for this thing until they got it. Well, I mean, isn't that exactly what you all did with Gina Carano? Well, tried successively over a period of months, more than a year in fact, obsessively hounding Disney to finally fire this actress, mostly just because she wouldn't do the thing that you wanted her to do. Oddly enough, we're told so often that the pronouns are personal. And so if pronouns are personal, you would think that everybody would have a choice as to whether or not they want to put them in their bio, and that you should respect that decision. But they just couldn't do that with Gina Carano, and the whole thing wound up with an obsessive campaign to get her fired that eventually succeeded at the end. And apparently it hasn't even ended. Because all that Bill Burr ever had to do was just come out and say, Gina wasn't mean to me. All he had to do was come out and say that Gina wasn't mean to him. And he was the very next one on the chopping block. They're like, okay, we got rid of Gina Carano. Let's go get rid of Bill Burr now. Really for no good reason other than the fact that he won't badmouth her for us. But apparently that's not toxic behavior. For the life of me, I can't figure out why. Here's the thing, though. With the Justice League movie, nobody lost their job or their career over that. As a matter of fact, there are a lot of people who got hours and hours and hours and hours of additional work. Money in the bank at a time when a lot of people in that particular industry are, damn near starving. And this campaign wound up kickstarting the project that's putting food on the table for those people. That's an awfully, awfully strange definition of toxic. I just can't wrap my head around that. But the more that I think about it, the more it just becomes inescapable. No, it's not the Justice League. It's not the Justice League fans, the Zack Snyder fans out there who are toxic. You are. But fortunately, what we can all say for ourselves for certain this particular time is that, that particular group of people, they didn't win. The fans won. And if you have some kind of problem with the fact that the fans are getting a movie that they wanted to see, just take your L, go away. I don't want to hear from you again until you can present to me a certificate of face fuckery. A certificate of self-face fuckery. Thanks for coming out. Sorry about your damn luck.